Welcome in. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%, or go to the app and they will deliver it right to your house pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. And yeah, there you go. Open Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. That's what I forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. That was it.
It's been a day.
I'm sitting here by my phone waiting to hear that I have to go to the hospital.
Well, let's power through this then.
Yeah. A bit of a newsy day. Not of the kind that you like if you're Scott Satterfield or the Cincinnati football program, as Greg Gasparato, the news broke of him first, heading to Troy to be the defensive coordinator. He was the outside linebackers coach here. He gets a promotion at Troy back to defensive coordinator. The interesting thing there that I think makes it super appealing, last year Troy was 8th in the country in defense. So you're going into a really good situation to be the defensive coordinator. I don't know financially how much. It's not like obviously Troy is swimming in cash, but for a lot of these guys, like you want a better title, more control, more say in how things are done, and you get a chance to go back to being a defensive coordinator. He took that opportunity. And then I started getting wind of another potential change on staff, talked to some sources and got it confirmed that offensive coordinator Tom Manning was headed back to the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts for a significant dollar amount, is what I was told. Manning worked with the Colts a couple years ago before he went back to Iowa State. He was at Iowa State, then he went to the Colts, then he went back to Iowa State to be their offensive coordinator. The Colts and Jim Irsay, from everything we heard when he was hired, loved him. And that became true. We found out that was a true statement because they're paying him, from what I understand, significantly more than what a tight end coach typically makes in the NFL. But he jumped at the opportunity. That one... Yes, on the surface, it does look bad. And it's not, I'm not trying to tell you it's a good thing that Cincinnati lost a respected offensive coordinator 2 weeks before spring football starts. But it's not going to necessarily change anything on the whole because it is still going to be Scott Satterfield's offense. Scott Satterfield designs the offense. Scott Satterfield calls the plays. So that much is not going to change. It's going to be shitty for the tight end room. Because you went from this will be your fourth coach in 3 years, technically, because you had Denbrock left. You brought in Nate Letton. Then you go Tom Manning comes into that room. Now Manning is gone. You're going to have another guy. So definitely rough on a guy like Shimon Mateer, who was all in on Tom Manning and very vocal on Twitter about how happy he was with where everything was headed. And then today you see him tweet out a little bit of frustration, which is completely understandable.
Well, and it's I feel a couple different ways about this because we heard on Thursday's pod when Coach Satterfield was on that if you are not having coaches hired out from under you, you're not doing something right. Like because these guys are hired out, getting promotions, you're putting good guys on your staff. That all said, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's some frustration because you want things to be where the team's starting to get comfortable with the coaches in place. Spring ball right around the corner, literally. So I don't know. I mean, it is what it is at this point. But I guess for the people who said that Coach Satterfield was just giving his boys, his staff, the extra money that he got coming to Cincinnati. Obviously, he had some good guys in place. Otherwise, why would anybody else want them?
Yeah, like that's kind of the thing about coaching is you always want to have guys on your staff that everybody else wants. You know what you don't want to have? A staff that nobody else wants. What you don't want to have is a staff that when you get fired, nobody hires your guys.
Not a good look.
Looking at you, December 2016. But anyhow, it's frustrating that it's this part of the cycle because you think things generally die down, and then there was some staff upheaval at Miami of Florida that caused the first domino here, Derek Nicholson, to take the linebacker job at Florida or at Miami from UC last week. And then as it pertains to Gasparotto, Miami initially they hired a defensive coordinator from Marshall. And then he got hired to Oregon. So they poached him away from Miami after he'd already agreed to go from Marshall to Miami, then Miami to Oregon. So Miami was again in the looks for a defensive coordinator. They hired the defensive coordinator at Troy that had just taken Troy to the number 8 defense in the country. Now Troy is looking for a defensive coordinator, and they come calling after Gasparotto. And then in the Colts situation, obviously the Colts fired their head coach a long time ago.
Right.
And then they just hired their head coach last week, putting together a new staff. And it was obviously pretty important for them to come back and circle around to Tom Manning, who had just taken the offensive coordinator job at Cincinnati. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating because people think the cycle ends like in January.
Right.
But you hit the NFL cycle and all of a sudden everything starts to change again.
Now, I do hope that this domino effect is done hitting Cincinnati at this point as things still continue to trickle down and people still continue to play the shuffle. But I don't know. We'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of days. Hopefully it's done.
I mean, you obviously hope that it's done. But you never know, man. Like that I guess what I'm getting at here is like what's happening now. Is Cincinnati's going to go hire somebody else's coach.
Oh yeah, again, it's a trickle down effect. I understand. I just hope it doesn't come back around again. at least here. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, I feel you. But yeah, it's a vicious cycle in college coaching, and honestly, if we're gonna have a real conversation about all of this, it's why I don't have any problem with these coaches that complain about other schools are trying to buy players off my roster and kids are transferring that aren't giving us a chance to retain them, and kids are getting paid, and I don't like the way the kids are getting paid. It's bullshit. It is. Like you can leave. You clearly can leave whenever you want. All these guys that just took jobs 2 months ago and now are back in the hiring cycle, and we're naming lots of them, and Cincinnati's going to hire a couple of them. They just did. They're going to hire 2 more on the coming up, and you're the kids. Go get yours. Transfer whenever you want.
I'm sure there's kids. I'm sure there's kids on the roster right now that have committed to some of the coaches that are leaving.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens come the end of spring ball.
You would like to think, for the most part, those kids are here, but you never know.
We'll see.
Go get yours, because they're going to go get theirs. That's college coaching, and I don't begrudge them for that. If they feel like they've got a chance to better their lot in life, go. And the players should be allowed to do the same. That's all. I don't have a problem with any of it. I don't have a problem with either situation. I just that's why.
As long as it's on a level playing field, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The other
What else you
thing
got?
that came up today was rule changes potentially coming to college football designed to
I've got it pulled up if you
okay, I
I
got
got it
it.
on my phone. Okay.
I got it. Reportedly to uh, aid in the safety and game length of the game. First off,
Literally
this
none of
has
these rules.
nothing to do with safety.
No, none of them.
They're selling. Well, this is going to eliminate 6 to 9 plays per game, and that makes the players safer.
Sure. Okay.
FOH. You're not
Did
allowed
you
to
see
cuss as much on
did,
Twitter
did
or
you
on YouTube anymore.
did you watch any of the XFL this weekend, by the
No,
way?
I was coming home from Bowling Green, and then I recorded with you last night, and I went to bed.
I didn't know if you'd seen any of the replays on Twitter or anything.
Not
The
really.
way they
No.
do kickoffs, they line the kickoffs way down the field, so they're lined up roughly 10 yards off of where they're receiving it, and then they just run the play as if it was like a run play once the guy catches it.
Okay.
So you're not running the length of the field to make these crazy wild hits. It's almost like a run play. But those are the things that you would put in place to
For safety.
protect players,
Yeah.
not this malarkey.
All right. Here are the 4 things. Prohibiting consecutive timeouts, like on icing kicks. I'm perfectly fine with this. Consecutive timeouts are stupid. They're dumb.
Put it up here on the screen.
Gotcha.
By the
Gotcha.
way.
They're dumb. You shouldn't be able, if you call one timeout, you should not be able to call a timeout before another play is run. I think that is the dumbest shit I've ever seen, and I don't like it.
Should have never been allowed.
Right. You should, when you call a timeout, you have used your timeout for that clock stopping situation. And you cannot just call another one for the hell of it.
No, we all want to go home. Get out of here.
No untimed down at the end of the first and third quarter. We asked Ryan Royer about this on the BBP. He said he never experienced an untimed down at the end of any quarter in his entire college career. The man played 5 years of college football.
It's a waste of a conversation.
Yeah. These two are the two that one of them is probably going to happen to speed up.
I don't think you can have both.
I don't either, because then it's just the clock never stops. Clock runs after first downs, except inside of 2 minutes and a half. I've always hated in college football that the clock stops on first downs until the ball is set. I don't like it. Like, it's just unnecessary. Why? Why does the clock need to stop on first downs? What about a first down means that the clock stops?
You got enough with replay and everything anyway, where there's bound to be stoppages.
Yeah, and so you get a first down, the clock runs. Good for you. You got a first down. You got 40 seconds to run your next play. Like, I don't like it. So I'm fine with that one. I'm also fine with this one. Clock runs on incompletions once the ball is spotted. I don't hate that, but I don't think you can do both.
I agree. This all reminds me of the conversation we had with Coach Googs last week. And he said, in regards to baseball and the rule changes in baseball at the MLB level, that those same rule changes weren't at that point in time. And I don't know if that's going to change. But at that point in time, they had not been made also at the college level. But he said he wants all the rules to be the same, so that as you're playing baseball at the college level, you're preparing yourself for the big leagues.
Yeah, I don't mind subtle differences in the leagues. Like, every league is going to be different. Like,
I get that. And obviously, like I said, I mean, we just mentioned different things at the XFL level, and the CFL is different and the USFL is different. That said, I think the closer that you can get to replicating the college game on the NFL game is nothing but a good thing. I also think, and Ryan made this point, if you do choose rule number 3 and the clock does run after first downs except inside of 2 minutes and a half, then I think you need a 2-minute warning.
I don't mind that. He also said he wouldn't mind it being 5 minutes, which I don't
Correct.
object to either. But I know what they're trying to do there is make it a rule that impacts game-winning drives, like game deciding possessions.
They're also trying to get you out of a 4-hour game.
The games are too long, man. The games are too long.
Look, here's the thing. Implement any of these rules, I'll be shocked if we have any less commercial time.
No.
And
Aaron, it is all done on the backs of commercials. We are all here because of commercials.
My point is, I don't think it's going to make the game any shorter.
It will.
We'll
the NFL game's only 3 hours, and they're all about commercials too.
We'll see.
NFL games, 3 hours and 15 minutes max. Those things are done because they keep the clock moving.
I'm saying we're still going to be at 3 hours and 40 minutes. I don't think you're going to shave all that much time off.
No, you are. You will. With either of those two changes, you'll shave 15 minutes off of a game, 30 minutes off of a game fairly easily. Because it's just, in the college game, the clock is stopped constantly. The clock is always stopped.
Super aware.
You sit in the press box?
I know.
The clock is never moving in a college game. Never. There have been times in games you look up and you're like, there are 12 minutes left in this quarter. They've only run 3 minutes of clock off. It has been a half an hour.
That's why Army and Navy games are blessings at times.
Like ad people are like, no, we're not buying Army Navy games. We don't get to run enough commercials to buy Army and Navy games. Not enough inventory allowed in those games. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see some level of these implemented. I definitely want to see those no untimed downs in the first and third quarter to see how quickly that speeds up games. What are we doing? What idiot thought, no, what we should do? We got to get rid of those pesky untimed downs that are happening all the time. You got to kick whoever that was. You got to kick them out of the room. Whoever suggested that, you're off the committee. You are not allowed in these meetings anymore. You don't even watch the sport. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!